So I just found out that Facebook has a friends limit. And unfortunately, I've already reached that maximum capacity. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and create a fan page. So that's what I did. And that fan page right here, that's gonna be dedicated solely to vaping hardware giveaways. I'm gonna be giving away all my stuff. Well, 99.9% of all my vaping hardware over the next few months. So all the stuff that I receive, all the stuff that I purchase to review, I'm giving it away. And I'm going to be giving it away on that fan page. As soon as that page reaches 5,000 fans, I'm going to start with the first giveaway. Can't tell you what it is, but it's going to be good. On to the tutorial. Oh shit, did I spit on the lens? What the hell am I gonna do with all of you? Today's tutorial is going to be on 22 gauge Kanthal, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a macro coil using 22 gauge Kanthal. But before I do that, I got to talk about wire and resistance, because there's a lot of people PMing me asking me, what's the difference between 30 gauge? What is 24 gauge? What's 26 gauge? What's the difference in all of these wires, and what's resistance? What's ohms? Hell, I don't know what the hell. This stuff's gonna make my mind explode. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys an analogy. And I mentioned this analogy about 2 years ago in one of my videos, but I'm going to go ahead and repeat it. Okay, so wire. Wire is like a highway. The thinner that wire is, the smaller the highway is, which means the less room for cars to travel. Okay, so in this case, the cars are the current. And they're traveling along the highway, along that road. That's the current. So I'm holding up this piece of 28 gauge Kanthal. You probably can't see it, but the 28 gauge Kanthal represents a 2-lane highway. Whereas this big hunk of wire right here, this 22 gauge Kanthal, represents a 6-lane highway. Think of it this way. So with the 2-lane highway, aka the 28 gauge, only 2 cars can run through that highway at a time. You're liable to get a traffic jam every now and again, especially if you push a limit with that wire. And it's because that 28 gauge is a higher resistance wire. It heats up a lot faster, especially a lot faster than something thicker like this 22 gauge. The 22 gauge, on the other hand, we already mentioned this. It's like a 6-lane highway. Oh, you got more cars, and more cars can go through that highway. It's 6 lanes. It's not 2, 6. So more cars can go through there, meaning more current can run through it. You follow me? It heats up slower and covers more surface area because that wire is thicker, it's fatter. Because it covers more surface area, it will allow for more vapor, more flavor, and more throat hit. So that's probably the easiest analogy I can come up with right now that you guys can understand, and I think it's pretty cool. Now on to the 22 gauge macro coil. So I've got this 22 gauge, and all I'm going to be doing is cutting a piece, a 6-inch piece of this 22 gauge Kanthal, and I'm going to be using these wire cutters that I got from a hobby shop. And I love these things. These things are way better than nail clippers, way better than scissors, because I can get in there nice and tight. I mean, it's flat, it's sharp as hell. You get in there and you can clip any gauge wire. Give it a clip. Alright, so I've got this 6-inch piece of 22 gauge Kanthal, and this stuff is thick. You saw that tutorial on the 24 gauge macro coil, and that stuff's thick. This stuff is quite a bit thicker than the 24 gauge. I actually have a drill bit today, not a flathead screwdriver. I've got a 1/8 inch drill bit, and all I'm going to do 5 wraps of this 22 gauge around this 1/8 drill bit. Alright, so here's the drill bit. Just a little close up. You want to make sure that these wraps are as close together as possible. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn this around so you can see it. It's not quite tight enough yet, but we can adjust it. That's the good thing with Kanthal, is it's very adjustable. And then when we heat this sucker up on the atomizer, we can squish these coils nice and tight. But that's what I love about thicker gauge wire. I mean, it's easy. It's easy to mold, and if you wrap it tight together the first time, I mean, that's pretty darn tight right there. Look at that. That's without even torching it. That's what I love about this 22 gauge and 24 gauge Kanthal. It's not springy one bit, and when you wrap those coils and they're side by side, you just got to make sure you wrap each coil side by side. They won't go anywhere. You want to make sure that one's going under in the opposite direction, one's going over in the opposite direction. Straighten these leads out as much as I can. That way it makes it easier to insert into the post holes of your RDA. One's already longer than the other, and they're not too long, so I'm not going to go ahead and clip them. Today I'm going to be using the Panzer Blackhawk, as you can see, and the RDA I'm going to be using is the Zenith version 2. One in the negative post, the other in the positive. Okay, just like that. Lift her up a little bit, push her in there, make sure she clears that cup, and that's what we're looking for right there. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and tighten down these connections. Straighten her out, maybe lift her up a little more, pull her towards these posts just a little bit. I'm going to clip them. I can get in there nice and tight. Take the drill bit out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fire her up, and we're going to go ahead and get her nice and even. Make sure these coils are glowing from the inside out. Hey, today, look at this. I got some stainless steel tweezers, and I purchased these at my local grocery store. Ooh. Give her a pinch. That's what I love about these stainless steel tweezers. They're all stainless steel. No paint on there. If you have tweezers that have paint on there, you could get the paint on your coils and it could be potentially toxic. See how they're glowing from the inside out? That's exactly what you want. So it's reading 0.4, 0.41. Again, this is a 5 wrap of 22 gauge Kanthal around a 1/8 inch drill bit. I got my piece of cotton, gonna go ahead and thread her through there. Give her a little twist. Oh yeah, that's it right there. Hoo! Okay. And that's another thing with cotton. You don't need scissors, guys. You could pull this stuff apart with ease. And with this macro coil, I don't like to stuff the wick underneath, right underneath the coil. I find that doing that, you decrease your vapor production. Flavor is just exceptional off this coil anyways. And that is another thing I love about this Zenith version 2. Between these posts right here, there's space between the deck and the post so you can tuck your wick tails. I mean, a huge space. It just makes it more convenient. Oh yeah. We're going to go ahead, take it back to the original screen and vape on her. The vapor production is intense. And that's what I'm talking about, not bunching that wick underneath the coil, okay? You give it some room. You give it some room to breathe. Flavor is off the charts. Just like I explained with the wire, the thickness of the wire in the highway. The lower the gauge wire you go, the bigger that highway is. The more current, the more cars can travel through or along that highway, through the wire. It heats up slower, but it covers more surface area because it's a larger wire. Because it covers more surface area, I mean, you're going to get more flavor. You're going to get more vapor because it vaporizes. It covers more juice. It's going to vaporize more juice. The 24 gauge macro is not as dense. It's not as hot because over time, as you fire that, you know, more current is going through those coils, which means it's going to heat up and it's going to stay hot longer and it's going to get hotter over time. With the 24 gauge, it's still a freaking scorching vape, but the flavor to me, and everybody's different, everybody, you know, this may be subjective, the flavor to me is more crisp. It's not like real crisp, but it's more crisp than this, whereas this is like a rich, it puts off like a rich, dense vape. Do you know what I'm saying? Everybody's different. So these are just my experiences. And I mean flavor. Flavor is in your face. And I like in your face, because I'm an in your face type of guy. But you know what I mean. I mean, it's intense. If you got some 22 gauge lying around, give it a shot. This is Rip Trippers. And remember, smoking is dead, vaping is the future, and the future is now.